All right, I'm Matthew Favai. This is Mathew Owen.
Hi.
All right, Matt. Harry Potter, Half-Blood Prince. We've been
Book number
working.
6.
I want to tell people that are watching this, and I want you to think of Dumbledore when he tells Harry about having that crazy water at the end.
Yeah.
That I'm going to talk a lot of shit about a lot of the aspects of this movie because there are so many things I don't like about it. But you must remember, I love the Harry Potter franchise. I fucking loved the books,
It's
and
real good.
I'm rooting for these movies to do well. You must always remember that, no matter how much bad I talk about it, because I'm going to say my overall consensus of this movie is that we've got Yates, the director, who I think was a great choice,
David Yates.
doing his thing since Order of the Phoenix. The movies look great. He has great uses of montages that are perfect for getting across a book. You've got Hooper, the plucky British guy who was just working on TV, and now all of a sudden he did Order of the Phoenix. He does all the rest of the Harry Potter movies for the soundtrack. He probably does Fantastic Beasts. I think that he is great, but he doesn't really hit the mark with some of the the high highs. Especially like the Dumbledore death. I think he just doesn't really know how to deal with it. That's when I was wishing for John Williams or somebody. But what always pulls these movies down is Cloves. The script writing is terrible. The lines he forces into these kids' mouths, gross. And also the child actors. Like, I mean, I admire that they'd wanted to have the same 10-year-old kids age throughout the movies, but Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson are not good actors. They are.
Damn. I disagree.
What?
I think by 6, man, I thought Radcliffe was okay. He's not a great actor, but I thought Radcliffe turned into a average to above average actor. I thought Grint was always good, but
Grint is good.
I thought Watson at least pulled it together. I mean, it wasn't as much her acting as I think it was how much they rewrote the character. But I don't think that they were inherently. I mean, I would say that like pre book 4 or movie 4, Goblet of Fire, I would say besides Grint, they weren't good. But I think 6 and 7 are really the ones to bring it around. By the way, this isn't really a review as much as it is a criticism. So if you're expecting non-spoilers, you should watch another video. Well, you should watch our video, but also you should watch Harry Potter because this is going to be full of spoilers.
Yeah.
We're gonna go through the movie kind of. The past ones we've done all over the place, but me and Matt decided that we'll just kind of go from front to end and cover what we thought was worth talking about in a kind of sequential order, so you can follow along. And
Well, I opened with when Dumbledore dies.
so yeah, if you didn't know this was a spoiler by now, sorry, but I mean, you should know that Dumbledore dies. Even if you didn't read Harry Potter or see the book, that's a joke. Like, that's a spoiler joke on the internet for the past 5 years. So,
Well, talking about acting, when Radcliffe, he has to act somewhat drunk in this when he takes the luck potion,
yeah.
and that is when I loved him. When he was I thought, oh man, this guy's so likable. And there's another scene where Ron is sort of the center, and then Harry and Hermione are on either side of him. And I feel like that is way better because Grint is such a more natural actor. I would have liked to see Radcliffe as the weirdo friend, and because when he's playing Harry, I think he's trying to be so stoic that his main acting style is act like he's cold. He clenches his jaw and he goes, and he shakes his head and he just kind of like chatters his mouth, and that's his way of presenting everything. And then you got Watson over there, who no matter what happens, she just looks like he just put an ice cube down her back. She's like, yeah, she's freaking out about everything.
I don't know. I thought this movie did a good job by highlighting some of the darker elements. It was like Chamber of Secrets, but told better. I think that Half-Blood Prince, and as the series continues, you saw more of a focus on, I guess, Harry Potter as a ensemble.
Yes.
The books are very much about these 3 kids, but as it goes forward, especially with Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, it's more about the big players. So you're seeing more of the adults. You're seeing a lot more of the supporting cast becoming, more like main or leads. So I think that kind of alleviated a lot of the pressures that were put on the main 3 kids. But yeah, hindsight's 2020. You probably could have found a better Daniel Radcliffe, but no one knew that Harry Potter was going to really blow up as big as it did. Everyone knew it was going to be popular, but at a certain point, you've kind of already made your decision, I think. So it was good that they got a lot of really, really, really good actors to play the supporting roles.
The supporting roles are always amazing. There are many times when I'm watching this and I think, how did this movie and this franchise make so much money? Because a lot of these movies are garbage. But all right, let's go through this. So,
it's the popularity, man. People love them some Harold.
But they're bad. And they take a really strange turn to like this kind of light horror, which I love. I love Yates's take on it and that he makes it dark, and I think it fits the material perfectly. If you said, oh, they're Disney, let's say Disney is making a movie adaptation of this like world's most popular children's books, Harry Potter.
You'd expect more.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect. Yeah, there's going to be death, and it's going to be like a horror movie.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean this series takes a very crazy turn, and I think that's another thing too, is that the movies and the content got more adult as the series went on.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people didn't really mind some of the subpar acting as Radcliffe because the mass majority of the viewing audience and the demographic they're aiming for grew up watching them. So it was easy to forgive, Daniel Radcliffe for not being top tier because you watched him grow up with you. You were like 8 or 9 or 10 when the first movie came out, or maybe younger, a little bit older. But as you got older, you watched him grow up. So I don't know. I think there's some kind of parody in there, like Pairity, if that's a word. But
his acting is a parody.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. But I think it was easier for people to forgive it because they watched him grow up. Kind of like the movie Boyhood, which is a really off-topic thing, but like that kid wasn't super great. But watching him grow up, literally the actor grow up from age 5 to age 20-something, you were able to forgive some of it because you were watching him grow as an actual person, not just a character on the screen. But yeah, Harry Potter, Half-Blood Prince, that's what we're talking about. Matt, take us away into this magical world of mystical wonder.
So it opens up, and we have the Muggle world, and now
that's non-magic people.
Non-magic people, and yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this that don't know what Muggles are.
What's a Muggle?
Probably my mom. We'll explain it to my mom watching this. Hi, Mom, I love you. So,
hi, Matt's mom.
The Dark Wizards are now encroaching on the Muggle world. We see a great shot of a bridge in London. Office people in London being like, oh, what's going on over there? And like the bridge is kind of going all crazy. I really like that. And I think that that's told much differently than in the books. And I think it was a strong choice. And when I watched that, I felt, which I always like to feel when I'm watching a Harry Potter movie, hey, this just feels like a movie. It doesn't feel like it was forced out of the book. So I thought the opening was pretty strong. Mm-hmm. Then we zoom in, and Harry's like hanging out in a coffee shop, reading a newspaper.
Yeah, he's chilling. It's like
himself.
In a subway station. Yeah, he's like in a little like side coffee shop.
Yeah.
In a substation waiting for a bus or a train or something like that.
Yeah, and out of all the crazy, magical, mystical things in Harry Potter movies, the toughest thing I had to believe was that girl would be interested in Harry Potter.
Yeah, she was way out of his league.
Yes, he didn't do anything charming. He's just girls don't fall for creepy guys who hang out alone in cafes. They don't like that. That's not an attractive thing.
It was kind of forced. She kind of comes up to him and she's like, sees a headline that's like Harry Potter or something on the newspaper he's reading. And she's like, oh, who's Harry Potter? And he's like, oh, some idiot or something. And it's like, it's not like they hit it off or flirt very much. It's almost like the girl is thirsty. And she's like, well, I get off at this time and you can come and pick me up. It's like a very weird... It reflects the opening because the intro of that movie feels nothing like Harry Potter. If you start up the movie and no one told you it was Harry Potter, you'd think it was some sort of like modern disaster. So I think the beginning of Half-Blood Prince, especially with the coffee shop scene, it really tries to include or really expand upon the idea that it's not a magical world. It's just a magical world that takes place within a greater Muggle world. So they're trying to include... I want to say humans over and over. I want to keep saying humans, but they're trying to include Muggles. And they're trying to show the natural world because I feel like a lot of earlier Harry Potter movies had this kind of sense of fantasy to them, and I feel like the continuing series, as they continue and get into 6 and stuff like that, it's more grounded. Way more grounded.
Said, especially the opening scene in 5 too, when he's sitting on those swings and it's bright as day.
Yes.
Right. Girl comes in. She says that crazy line to him, and she's like, could have swore I saw a picture on your newspaper move. No one would say that in real life. If you accidentally saw a picture, you would not say that. That's
and then you're like,
very crazy thing to say.
I actually gotta go because look at my wrist. You're crazy.
Yes. And Then Dumbledore comes out with him, and he takes him to meet Slughorn. And Slughorn is just the next in the line of the new teachers we meet that kind of has a little bit of a creepy edge to him. I think they do a really great job of making him come off as a collector, especially when he refers to Regulus Black and Sirius Black as the pair. He would have liked to have the pair, even though Sirius just was murdered like a week ago, but he still talks about him as this object. Like another fantastic English actor. For such a small country, they put out some huge talent.
I really like the scene too, because the whole scene, they're walking into this destroyed house and they're trying to find him, and it's cool because unlike other professors, Slughorn has an inherent backstory baked into him. You know, you get Dumbledore, the greatest, most powerful good wizard of all time, and he's seemingly hiding from even him. And then, he says, "Oh, I'm being followed by X and Y and all these things." So Slughorn comes with baggage, and then immediately Harry kind of learns kind of who he is. But I like him because Slughorn is he's a flawed character from the get-go. And a lot of the adults and a lot of the father figures that Harry gets are good inherently. They're just good people. And then you have Slughorn, who is like kind of slimy in the worst ways, but it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, there's a few later scenes too with him where he has this backstory of he likes to collect things sort of illegally, and then he tells people it's for academic purposes. Even at the funeral for the spider, he wants to take the venom from the spider because he just kind of reduces everything to a collection. So I thought he was great. I thought they handled him really well. Great casting. I noticed at this time Hooper, the guy who's doing the score, it's just so good. He can be so understated. He knows how to be really playful with it. He knows how to build dread. I think for everything other than the biggest climactic moments, I loved his score. Really, really enjoyed it.
He's really good at accenting the things. Like we've been saying, there's light horror elements, and even this first scene where they go and try and find Slughorn, it's not like this nice house. It's a destroyed house.
Like a cracked in.
Yeah, it's very dark. It looks like something just happened. It's very bad, and the score, is it's low, it's subtle, it's haunting, it's good. He does a good job of accenting the scene and not overpowering it. Like you said, he doesn't hit the highs where it really needs to hit. But as far as using music to accompany emotion and to bring out the style of the scene, the feelings they're trying to invoke, I think he does a really good job. And it's apparent right from the get-go, especially when you're seeing things and scenes that you're not used to seeing in Harry Potter. Like we talked about, it's grounded. It feels like a different kind of movie, but he does a good job still making it feel like Harry Potter with the music and adjusting it to fit the scene's needs.
Then we have the kids Harry gets dropped off by Dumbledore. In a puddle. And and then he goes, and we kind of see the Weasley house, and we have that great shot where they're looking up and everyone's kind of peeking their head over the railing, and it's like a big spiral thing, and everybody's excited Harry's there. Ginny, now they're trying to establish Ginny and Harry future love. Ginny comes up and hugs him right away, and this is strange because they've done a terrible job of building any sort of interest with them, and they have to get a lot of it done. And I think that's a major failing in the movie because of the writing and because of the two actors that they thrust together.
What's interesting is, there's a lot of love triangles. There's not a ton of it, but there is a decent amount of love triangles and love stories in the Harry Potter books, but not as many. You get Cho Chang and stuff like that, but not as much leading up in the early Harry Potter books or early Harry Potter movies. And Ginny in the movie specifically is kind of like, very timid. She is the younger sister to Ron in the most purest way. So you never really, and they don't show her interest. When she first sees Harry Potter in the very beginning, she's kind of starstruck. So maybe you just kind of take that as like oh, wow, like she's really, wow, this is a celebrity. But as the books progress, they kind of drop hints that she's interested or maybe a little timid. But in the movies, they kind of just erase it. And then, they need to identify, or what they need to do is make up for all those past books, flirty and all that. So instead of like kind of building into it, they just right up from the get-go, it's like, Ginny is no longer afraid of Harry. Boom. She is now an adult, kind of. She's a friend. She's one of them, so they can build up into this relationship. But it feels really rushed and kind of caught off guard. If you and
is also dating another guy at the time too. They reveal that she's dating the dean, and she's not admitting to it. Says it's none of her brothers, the older brother's business. I think they ask. It's like 6 is the book where they really take Ginny as a adult character. Like she's not a child to them anymore. She is
a peer. Ginny is always Ron's younger sister who's in grade 1 or 2 in the background, and then it's like 5 and 6 is where they're like, no, Ginny is old enough that she's part of the group. Like that's where they really try to bring it forward.
Yeah, and I mean, and I like that dynamic of if a younger sibling hang around older siblings, it's really easy for you to kind of fade in the background and look at them as celebrities, let alone Harry Potter. But they just didn't have any moments that made them actually like each other.
Yeah.
So that was a big problem. Then we have the trio doing yet another one of their trademark awkward laughing scenes where but they still do a good job of because they're giving the information of like, we're worried again, we might not have gone to school, Hermione's parents might have kept her out of school, Ron's mom didn't want them to go to school, Harry's so into Dumbledore. I mean, this is all J.K. Rowling's writing, but I think they do a good job of bringing the best parts of that scene, and then they end it with this joke where Harry's not sure how old Dumbledore is. Ron says about 150, and then it's just, oh my god, the laugh they do.
Ron, Ronald, my friend. Like it's so forced, but you're right. They use that scene to set up the dread very well.
Yeah.
Hogwarts used to be a safe haven, and now parents are saying we don't want to take our kids to what is supposedly the most fortified magical place on the earth. And now you're understanding that the game is much bigger than what we've seen before. But you still get those weird, like you said, the weird like forced laughs and the weird jokes that kind of fit with the old style, but not with the more mature style.
And I understand they put that in Order of the Phoenix because they needed to have a flashback moment when Harry realizes that he's a Care Bear and he's going to use love to defeat Voldemort.
Yeah, it's a necessity.
So after this, and this is a great timing for this scene, and again, this is part of the writing for Rowling. Now that we've established that Muggle parents and Ron's parents are worried about Hogwarts not being safe, we see Snape with the enemy.
Yes.
You got Snape and Bellatrix, both of them.
And Malfoy's mom.
Strange. Yeah, that's right. Bellatrix and Malfoy's mom. And you see Wormtail come in, and Snape kind of shows the power that he has, where he just like flicks Wormtail away with his wand and slams the door in his face.
Yeah.
And I like that Bellatrix is touching things, and Snape tells her, don't touch things that aren't yours, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like the juxtaposition of his like elegance and eloquence to her sort of like savagery, and you can see that they respect him, but there's a little bit of tension. Then he ends up making the unbreakable vow, and that's when they let you know that he's going to assist Malfoy no matter what in killing Dumbledore.
I like what I like about the scene a lot is that, especially playing off what you said, like how him and Bellatrix interact, is that Bellatrix represents the most crazy side of Voldemort's followers. She's in love with the guy practically. She's all over the place. But what's interesting about Snape is that regardless of who he's on the side of, it's so hard to read him because he never waves. He's powerful. He's stoic. He's very much to the point. And if he has a problem, he'll say it. It doesn't matter if you're the dark. I mean, he won't talk shit to Voldemort, but he doesn't matter if you're a Death Eater or if you're a member of the Order of the Phoenix. He's so Snape that it's really hard to pin down who he's loyal to. And that's what I like, that even though he has gone to the dark side, he's making this unbreakable vow, or for whatever reason, he's still Snape, and he does not let his own personality fall through. I really like Alan Rickman's decisive way of handling that character, and I think that in the book he isn't. He is more wavering than he is in the film, and I think the film adaptation and Alan Rickman's portrayal of Snape is so dead on to what the character is really about. And this scene shows it off because it's really the first time you see Snape talking with them, and you're like, well, okay, what's going on here then? So
and also because the whole crux of the Snape plot moving forward is that the Death Eaters think that he's on their team and secretly pretending to just be on Dumbledore's side, but Dumbledore is saying no, it's like a triple cross.
Yeah,
and like you say, Rickman is just so deadpan with everything that he really gives that plot life. Then we hop on over to the twins, and they are successful shop owners
in Diagon Alley.
After leaving school.
They have their big old joke shop. I am interested what you think about this because I love it because it's so cartoony and so crazy and so colorful, but it feels weird against the tone of the rest of the movie. But what did you think about it?
I thought it was nice. I think that we needed a bit of something fun and goofy, and also the way that they showed this was the only shop in town that was still running, and everything else was all gray and darked out. You see Fenrir out there. They do a really good job of foreshadowing in this movie, where there's a lot of it's almost like Memento, you know, you kind of see like a clue for the next scene is in the scene right before.
Oh yeah, they're really good about doing that, dropping little hints. I liked that. I liked the art design and the set design of the joke shop a lot, because it really evokes that magical feeling. I think it's a good nod. It feels like a scene that's really kind of pulled out of maybe not Goblet or Prisoner of Azkaban, but earlier. You know, the twins are doing their like talking at the same time, and Ron's like, "Hey, I found these two things. How much are they?" And they're like, "You're our brother, Ron, so it's double for you." You know, they're jokey, and it is a good thing. It feels different from the rest of the tone, but as a visual scene and as a testament to their set design and way to evoke magic in, you know, a set, is really, really, really good. You know, a lot of big cartoony things. You have the big guy at the top. He has like a big top hat, and that's on the top of their sign for their building. It's really, really cool, and I like that scene a lot.
Yeah, I hope those guys are sending money back home, because their parents were in the poorhouse raising all these gingers, and all of a sudden these guys are rolling in the money.
Love potions, ladies. It's so weird. It's so different in tone, but
they definitely overuse puking pastils. I think I heard that name like 5 times in Order of the Phoenix. So
in the books too, there's like chocolate frogs, puking pastils, and then there's like 3 or 4 other things. But it feels like Fred and George have made so many cool things, and there's so many options just to make cool little gadgets, and they kind of center around like, you know, love potions, and this one will make you sick, and this one will give you a nosebleed, and that's it. Like,
they have that kid walking on the wall, sort of like a 1960s Batman. That was pretty cool.
That's what I like. Like, I wish they would highlight kind of things like that. Like I've said a million times before, I like the idea that magic can be used for more than just, you know, disarming and throwing spells around. I like the idea of functional magic, and I think that Fred and George's joke shop is one of the best ways they could have utilized that. They didn't utilize it in the book, so I didn't expect the movie adaptation to be much, much better, but it's really good for what it is.
Well, I think one of the interesting parts of the book is that Rowling, like, I've used the word juxtaposition. The juxtaposition of dreary sort of everyday British life, where people accept their role that they're born into. Hey, I'm working class or whatever. To add an element of magic to just about anything, like how you would do the washing up or apparating around your house, or that.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and that was, I think, shown really well here, where you don't really see a lot of that for the rest of the movie. So I think this was good to have that scene. And then also, this is a great juxtaposition, because then they leave and they see Malfoy and his mom walking around. They follow him. They have that claustrophobic shot down that narrow brick. You see Fenrir's wanted poster up on the side.
Some really, really, really good shots in this. A lot of great cinematography. A real good handle on the camera and using perspective to really evoke a claustrophobic feel, a feeling of darkness. It's really good use of camera.
Good handle on the camera. I like that phrase. So then the trio sees Malfoy. Fenrir comes out, and that's when they sort of get the idea. So this is when Harry starts becoming what everyone thinks. Oh, you're just paranoid, Harry, not Henry. How could Malfoy be evil? And he tells me, he's like, what about his dad? His dad's a Death Eater. And they're like, and everyone's kind of like a real social justice warrior. They're like, that's prejudice.
They're like, that's a pretty big claim there, Henry Petter. Why don't you back it up with some factual evidence? And he's like, I'm the boy who lived. I can feel Voldemort in my head. Believe me.
They're like, that's getting old, Harry. So when he's on the train and he's trying to tell the two of them that he thinks Malfoy is a Death Eater, he has this funny thing where he yells out, "Don't you see he's a Death Eater?" And then 1 second later he goes, "I have to get some air." And there's no pause or break or beat in between when he says that. And that's
Daniel Radcliffe just rolling over the line. Just no. Who needs the breath?
I feel like they just didn't give these kids a chance with it, or I don't know. Acting is one of those things that when you're doing it really well, it looks so easy, and you really notice it when it's not being done well. But so then Harry goes and he turns invisible because he wants to track down what Malfoy's up to. I thought the guy who played Malfoy, he really improved. He went back to his posh accent. He ditched that sort of like tough guy London accent. Yeah. And I thought like his exchanges with his Slytherin people on the train were really good. And then he knows that Harry is hiding in the little invisibility cloak, stuns him, paralyzes him, and then boots him in the face.
And he goes, that one's for my father. Because at this point, Lucius Malfoy has been, he's detained, I believe, correct? Yeah.
I think he went to Azkaban.
Yeah, he's in Azkaban. He's been proved as a Death Eater, so Malfoy knows that Harry is he's the one he's pissed about. Now it's more than just, old school rivalry. What I really like about this scene, besides the fact that he curb stomps Harry in the face, I didn't think it's in the book, and I didn't think they were going to put it in there because it is decidedly PG-13. Order of the Phoenix is right there. It just kind of slides away being a low PG-13, but Malfoy curb stomps him on the nose, intending to fuck his face up. Excuse my French. He is trying to hurt him really bad, and the fact that they put that in there, it shows that they're not holding back. And there's later scenes like the Sectum Sempra scene we'll talk about, which is really good. But the thing I like the most about this is it's the first time. Maybe we've seen a teeny bit, but it's really the first time we see more than just a single cabin in the Hogwarts Express.
That's right.
Much like in Chamber of Secrets, how I like seeing the Slytherin common room. You see where the Slytherins sit, and it looks different. It's they're high barred, and it looks a lot cooler. But I just like the idea that there's been a location that we've seen or visited at least 3 out of the 5 times preceding, and now we're getting a little bit of an extended look at it. But it feels like it was just like it was there the entire time. So I really like the way that scene is shot and what they show us, and I like the violence that they include. I think it's really good.
Even showing where Malfoy is sitting with the 3 other Slytherin too on the train is a new perspective and an angle on the train that we hadn't really seen before. Because like you said, it had always just been that one train box. Reminds me of the one the Beatles sit in the movie A Hard Day's Night. Then we have Luna Lovegood comes over, and you had mentioned in Order of the Phoenix that they play her more as kind of a flighty space cadet, whereas on the book she is a lot more useful. And then I like that that's one of the first things she does in this.
Yes.
She's the only one that saves him using these glasses and talking about Nargles or whatever is floating around. Everyone thinks, you're crazy, those don't exist, but that's how she finds them.
Yeah, they do a good job making Luna immediately not just, the floaty girl. Because Luna becomes, Order of the Phoenix really cements her as, now she's just another Neville. Not another Neville, but she's the same importance, if not more important, than Neville's spot in the group. So in Order of the Phoenix, she's very aloof. She's very, weird and kind of floaty. And she's useful in the end. But 6 is where they show off, she's not just a companion that's just kind of there for the ride, how Neville is. And then Neville evolved. They kind of skip the evolution of Luna and just go straight for no, she knows stuff. She just knows stuff that no one else really thinks is real, which is kind of a scary idea. But yeah, I like that they make her resourceful right from the get-go. But
it's also funny that she's saying these things that people think are crazy, and they're wizards. Yeah. They're used to crazy things. They have a whole department in the Ministry of Magic that is all about mysteries, and yet they're sure, Luna believes in these things. So
she's got her for freaking 3D glasses from her Quibbler magazine. She's gonna find a busted up Herald, sure. But no, that's how it actually goes down. I like that. Nargles,
they don't exist. Oh, let's go fight some dragons in the Triwizard Tournament.
Right. Exactly. It's a weird kind of disconnect, but so then what? Luna takes him back to the gates, right, where she fixes his nose. Crack. That was actually a nice little a little thing. I like that.
Yeah, they just showed the camera from behind. They didn't need to do any sort of animation with that. I like when he says, "How do we look?" and she says, "Exceptionally ordinary," or something like that, which is probably a line from the book. Rowling, her writing really improved, I think, around 5 and 6 to the end.
Yeah, I think Rowling started off she wrote the first chapter or something on a napkin or something. Not a first chapter, but she wrote the idea down on a napkin. I think J.K. Rowling was somebody who had a really good idea and then became a good writer because her really good idea was forcing her to expand her skill and also her ability to formulate a world. So yeah, I think she started off writing a children's book, and then she made it a series that was now it's kind of like Game of Thrones level stakes. So
for sure,
yeah. So she fixes her nose.
Fixes the nose. Then we see, what's his name? The creepy janitor guy.
Filch. Argus Filch.
He's trying to find Malfoy's weapon, and now that we know Malfoy's going to kill Dumbledore, he probably does have a weapon, but Snape interferes, gets Filch to leave him alone, and they head in. Then we have a great hall. Dumbledore gives this great speech about Tom Riddle being a student just like them, but now he's growing and it's evil, and it's not a rousing speech. It's a lot of dark times are coming. What I love about this shot is that everyone's looking at Dumbledore right in the eyes. They're transfixed by every word, and then they show Malfoy Not obviously, just show him in the crowd.
I was just gonna say that.
And he's looking away, and he's lost in thought, like anybody would be. You know, I think that anybody can relate to. You have something else on your mind, and now and they did a really good job of showing the evolution of him being consumed by this task.
Well, and it shows him being very human because Malfoy, maybe movie 2 Malfoy would be there scoffing like, "I'm gonna kill you, Dumbledore." But like, it's you said earlier, this is really the one where the actor's name is Tom something, and I want to say Tom Hiddleston. No, it's not Tom Riddle. It's the guy who plays Draco Malfoy. He really comes into his own. Close. I am Lord Voldemort in an anagram.
Felton.
Tom Felton, yeah. Tom Felton, I thought he was really, really good in the beginning, and then he kind of, in the beginning of the series, and then he kind of dipped down. But this is one that really shows him off, because not only does it show, in this scene particularly, not only does it show that the people making the film aren't trying to focus in and be like, but look, Draco is troubled. It's very short, but even in the subtlety of it, you can tell just by Tom Felton's look and the way he kind of brings in his he's trying to think about things. He does a really good job displaying emotion without using dialogue, and I think you see the start of the humanity and the fear for his own safety that Draco eventually, it plays out much more in the movie, but just that simple shot, sets a huge foundation for where that character is going to go.
Well, speaking of no dialogue, they barely give him any lines, and he's one of the most important characters in the movie. Most of the scenes in the middle are completely silent, just him on his own.
Because you're not supposed to know what he's really doing, and he's not talking to anybody. He's very secluded. The biggest thing about him in this entire movie is I feel like he's secluded. He feels alone. He feels pressured to do this, to take out Dumbledore, and he can't talk to anybody about it.
Yeah, I think they really nailed that. I would say that this movie really nailed the in-between scenes, the classes, the hanging out, like you said with Malfoy. I think that Yates' style and Hooper's soundtrack together, and then whatever they cobbled together out of Cloves. I kind of crap on Cloves a lot, the screenwriter.
He pulls some scenes pretty decently, but every now and again there's some stuff that falls flat. But like you said earlier, the stuff that's bad is glaring when the rest of it is pretty good.
But I feel like they really nailed sort of the in-between stuff, and I've told you that I love the in-between stuff in Harry Potter. Yeah. I love when they're in school and just hanging out.
And from there, don't they go to a class right from there, right?
Potions class, baby.
Yeah, with Slughorn. That's when you get to see the actual Half-Blood Prince book that the whole movie focuses on. Yeah,
he shows the girls the love potion, and they act all weird and sort of like erotic towards it. And then
that's pulled straight from the book. Yeah, they're all like, "Ooh, it smells different," and I smell this, and all that stuff.
And Hermione says, "Smells like toothpaste," because we had the scene earlier where Ron, out of nowhere, wants to like flick some toothpaste off of Hermione's face.
Freshly mowed grass.
And Harry reveals like you said, the Half-Blood Prince book, and this lets him get ahead of everybody else. And I think that this scene it was kind of like a mini montage as well. You had that like really fun Hooper playful soundtrack, cutting from scene to scene, showing a lot of things going on, and they just nailed it. I thought that this class was extremely, like they had to get so much information, and I think they did it really, really well.
There's a super small moment that they included, and it's in the book, and I'm really glad they did. The scene as it is, the only purpose of the scene, because he makes his first potion in this scene, right?
This is where he makes he gives them a challenge of a very difficult potion.
Yeah,
and then the winner gets the lucky juice.
Yeah, they're supposed to make the Drought of Living Death. And the whole point of this scene is that Harry uses the book and follows, written instructions that are kind of written by the previous owner, and he makes a great potion. So the whole entire idea of the scene is to show that this book has some pretty cool knowledge in it. But the thing I like the most is Harry and Ron are going to this class unprepared because they didn't know that they were able to take it.
Right.
In the backstory, they had scored too low on their test scores to take the next class, but with Snape no longer teaching potions and now teaching defense against the dark arts, they're allowed to take the class. So they arrive with no books or anything, and that's when Slughorn goes, "Oh, well, there's some books in the cupboard." And you see a very distinct shot of a nice-looking book and an old tattery book, which is the Half-Blood Prince one, and both Ron and Harry, go for the new one, but Ron gets it first, and I love that moment because it shows that it's just one little slip. It could change how the whole entire story plays out, and it could have been Ron who had to deal with the whole entire thing.
He's the
and
chosen one.
Exactly, and it's funny just kind of how all these little moments just always turn in Harry's disfavor or misfortune. But I like that they included that because it's a nice nod towards like sometimes Harry just gets the bad luck, like he just gets the cursed book or whatever the hell it is. So
and that moment felt like something two best friends would do, give each other that look and then have a really friendly competition over it as well.
It felt human.
So human.
Oh boy.
Then we have the very first riddle memory.
Oh, but it's important to mention that here, since Harry wins, he wins the contest of the best potion. He gets a little bottle of Felix Felicitas, which is a potion that will make you super, super lucky for like 8 or 12 hours or something.
And then Slughorn makes everybody clap too. I like that.
They're like, look at Harry, he's so much better than you. And Hermione's sitting there all like, oh, I worked so hard. Like they really make a point to show that Hermione's frustrated that Harry did well.
Well, and she has the most Hermione hair ever. It's even more frizzy than the weird crimp they used to give her in the first two movies.
Yeah, that shit was bad.
So then we see the first riddle memory. These are done really, really well. This is him in the orphanage.
Dude, the way that they intro these. Just the visual with like the raindrops and the ink droplets, really cool.
Oh, yeah. That was a really nice visual choice they didn't need to do, but it just kind of it puts you in a different world.
They're entering these memories using the pensive, or however you say it. It's a little device. It's a bowl that Dumbledore will empty his memories into, and then you shove your face in the water, and you can relive the memory. So when Harry first sets up, it sounds weird, but when he's like pouring his like weird off-white liquid into the pensive, and he's like, "All right, shove your face in there," but he shoves his face in.
Could not look more like sperm.
Exactly. It's obviously. And then they come down, and it's like a foggy area, but the scene formulates by seeing like these ink droplets. They're almost like falling shadows, and everything evolves around it. And it's a really, really, really cool ethereal way of doing it. But so maybe Tom,
right.
What's going on with Tom Riddle at this point, man?
Oh, and by the way, Michael Gambon, I think once he just settled down and didn't try to do a different accent and was just himself, he's such a great actor. I love him in Layer Cake, and I think he's a fantastic Dumbledore that is wise but has that little bit of menace if you would piss him off.
It takes him some time to get into the role because he was also following up a great actor who had unfortunately passed away. So I think he was trying to maybe mimic that a little bit. And I think that, he really set into his own at the end of Order of the Phoenix and the rest of the series.
So we've got him meeting Tom Riddle. And Riddle is not aware that he has magic. He just knows he can do some things. And you just kind of get this like the kid they got to play young Tom Riddle, I thought was fantastic.
He's like channeling the kid from The Omen. He feels like.
Yeah, and well, I mean, they just kind of have a nice little back and forth, and Dumbledore just tells him that he's magical and that he can come to this place, but he already that he's got some issues, and he's telling him that you can't be a thief, blah blah blah. He sets his dresser on fire. Tom Riddle's not scared. He's like really excited by it.
Yeah,
and. When I saw that scene, I instantly wanted to know more about Tom Riddle and like, how did he get to become Voldemort? Why is he just evil all the time? I mean, because there's really no explanation, and they cut out a lot of his backstory in this movie. They just say he was a kid who was kind of already messed up. He's in an orphanage. I guess that's a reason to be angry, and which is a lot like Harry, kind of being abandoned as a kid, and then he becomes Voldemort. But I wish they had a bit more of the motivation.
Yeah, they hide a lot of Voldemort's backstory, and I think the problem there is that there's a lot of characters that get introduced when it gets into Voldemort's backstory that, some of them come from long lines of families that are sub-characters in other books, so it's kind of easily done through the book because the characters in the world around it. But once you get into the movie, I think if they would have added that stuff, it would have felt a little bit out of place. But yeah, you miss a significant amount of what really the true evil, because the amount of time from Tom getting to the orphanage and when he's born, there's a lot of bad stuff that happens in his life that makes him kind of evil and hate Muggles, because he is a half-blood himself. He's not pure blood like all the other people think is the best, dark wizard. But there's a lot of stuff that they hid, and I think they'll use this Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them series to kind of flesh that out, maybe towards the end, because that's a whole other thing.
Well, but, I don't know what you would have cut from this movie to put that in.
Because there's a lot of stuff.
You would have had to make it another
20 minutes.
Yeah, 10 or 20 minutes longer. And like you said, you're showing these scenes with completely different characters. Because even in the books, it's a little bit off-putting. All of a sudden, you have to get to know this whole new world and these whole new characters. So, although I think Voldemort. It kind of lessened the impact of why he's evil. I think it was a wise choice to cut it.
Yeah, well, it's good because the kid does a really good job, once again, not using dialogue. In the dialogue he is given, it's very, very foretelling. And J.K. Rowling did a good job kind of highlighting that he is that evil as a kid, just inherently. You know, like one of the last things he says to Dumbledore is, and I can speak to snakes. Is that normal? You know?
That last little bit.
Yeah.
Then they do this kind of, I don't know if you watch Star Wars at all, but in a lot of Star Wars transition scenes, they'll show Jabba's palace, and then as they're moving on to something else, they'll be like, a little kind of funny alien will do something, and then it's on to the next scene. They do a scene here after this one where they show Hogwarts at night, and there's these Dementors that are coming, or like dark shadows that are coming right at Hogwarts Castle, and then they bounce off the shield. They didn't need to show that, but it was just this real quick kind of nice transition just to show you that darkness is on its way, but it's being held off for now. And then they immediately switch right over to the Quidditch pitch, and after seeing so many matches in the movies before, we actually see the first practice. Yeah. And this is to set up that there's the douchey guy who's more athletic and better than Ron. He's having a goalie competition with Ron to see who gets to be the main keeper. This guy's doing it with ease, looking good, hitting on Hermione as he's doing it. And then Ron's style is so opposite, kind of like
aloof.
Yeah, he's able to make the saves, but he does it in like a real goofy way. And they really made Ron a real like dumb goofball in the movie adaptation. Yeah. He's a little more serious in the books.
Yeah, in the books he's more like down on himself because he's not as good as he could be. In this one, he's just kind of lackadaisically like, look at me hitting all these balls away. But in the books, he's very, he hates the fact that he's not as good as he could be at Quidditch.
Because he's not a natural.
Yeah. It's but then we see that Hermione kind of bewitches the douchey character, the jock guy at the last minute, forcing him to miss a goal, showing that she doesn't really take to him and prefers Ron and wants to see Ron, which makes sense because they're friends, but it further pushes the whole Ron Hermione romance that they're pushing through.
That's one of the first and only times we've seen something where it actually makes sense that. You can't just always show them looking at each other and liking each other. There has to be a reason or an action that they do for each other. And this is one of the first times you saw, oh yeah, Hermione likes Ron because he is
They're friends.
And that he's not arrogant. She likes his sincerity. Yeah.
Moving off the Quidditch practice.
Yes.
Half-Blood Prince is there's lots of stuff, guys. There's a lot of scenes and there's a lot of wishy-washy, some's good, some's bad, but there's a lot of content here. Which when you talk about something like Chamber of Secrets, a lot of things feel glossed over. Goblet of Fire feels glossed over at certain points, but Half-Blood Prince, it's heavy stuff.
We see. I was a little confused why they weren't together at this point. I mean, in Goblet of Fire, we have that whole scene where Hermione is pissed that Ron didn't. Ron said he liked her too late when she already gone, and she said that you ruin everything, and she runs off in her Beauty and the Beast dress. So what are we doing 2 movies and they're still not together?
Yeah, they kind of. I don't think they had room for a romance in Order of the Phoenix, and then they use Half-Blood Prince to really drive home the Lavender Brown thing and give. I think they needed the jealousy to bridge that gap. Sure. After not having a lot of romance stuff in 5, I think the easiest way for it to not feel awkward and forced is to bring in the jealousy and highlight Lavender, give a little bit of a love story there.
Yeah, so then we have, this is kind of where it starts to drag a little bit. Harry's supposed to get to know Slughorn. They head on over to the 3 broomsticks. You see Malfoy doing some suspicious things. They still cram in a lot. Yeah. And Harry meets him. Ron points out the beer mustache on Hermione because she's like chugging back the butterbeer.
She's getting plastered.
And is butterbeer alcoholic or is it not alcoholic?
I think it is
because she acts drunk on the way back.
Yeah, because butterbeer I'm pretty sure is alcoholic in the Harry Potter world.
And then I was looking up in drinking laws in the UK, and if kids are with adults in a pub at 16, they can have a beer or a cider. They just can't they can't have like a shot of whiskey.
Yeah. So they do that, and that's when they see the girl Jesus Christing it in the snow, right?
Yeah, like flying up in the air, getting controlled kind of violently, and then slammed back into the ground. And this is when we start learning that there were these sort of evil things. That's sort of the first assassination attempt against Dumbledore that didn't quite make it to him.
So then they take this artifact, is like this bracelet, or not this bracelet, it's a necklace, and they take it to McGonagall, and they're like, this is the thing that messed her up. And I like it because there's a student who gets hurt, and it's completely its own thing. And then McGonagall sees Harry, Ron, Hermione. She's like, why is it always you three? Like, literally every time something bad happens, it's always you guys. So she says, hey, we need to get Snape to check out this amulet or this necklace or whatever. And they do that whole thing. And then they go from there. Do they go to Slughorn's party, or has that already happened?
Well, they have a quick little scene of Ron and Harry talking about girls. And I thought that this is one of the better character moments between the two. I think that whenever Radcliffe is able to relax a bit and talk like a real person,
when he gets grounded and feels human.
Yeah, I don't think he realized that you're supposed to act just like a normal person in a movie. You don't always have to have your superhero face on.
Yeah,
they have this kind of thing where they're talking about liking girls' skin, and I thought it was a really nice moment to include, and they handled it really well, and it just felt good. Like nice skin.
Feels John Goodman. It feels real John Goodman.
Not in Cloverfield 2, no.
Cloverfield's lane. So they have little Ron stuff. In Slughorn, they have a little... you get some more backstory of Slughorn's trying to invite all the kids who have important ties. There's a little dinner scene where he's talking to Neville and Harry and all these kids about, oh, well, your father works with a minister, and I do this. So you get more of the idea that Slughorn is a storied man who knows a lot of people, but he kind of is the guy who uses his... He's a dude who name drops everybody every single chance he can. And that's...
Yeah, and you also have Slughorn and Harry, like the relationship of Slughorn with everybody. You have the douche kind of being cocky again and Hermione not liking it. And then you have Hermione sort of revealing her usefulness to Slughorn in a way too, and like telling the story about the dentist and stuff. So this was, again, maybe something they could have cut, maybe something it drags with, but also gets across a lot of information, especially with
it's important.
Yeah, like the interpersonal stuff, I think works out really well. Then we have Ron being nervous about the big match, and then the camera pans over when they're in the Great Hall and they're all talking about it, and Luna's wearing this like ridiculously big lion head.
Yeah. It's a nice little touch from the books. She always wears that. It's a Quidditch thing. She wears the Quidditch matches. It roars. It's cute, and it goes and pushes Luna in that more like aloof, lackady. I don't really care what people think about me kind of.
Yeah, I love that, because that's one of the toughest things about high school that people learn as they're going through, is it's such a pressure cooker of what people think about you, and then there's Luna just doing anything
wizardry or not, Luna's just cool because she's the girl who doesn't care. She's like literally there's the whole good and evil battle going on, and I feel like she just chooses to be good because it's convenient. Like, she's the girl who's like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, she could have been neutral. She's like weird neutral Iceland.
She's cool too, because later on in the Christmas, Slughorn has a Christmas dinner or something. Harry can't decide who he's going to invite, so he invites Luna, and it's good because Luna, is a solid person. She's really good. She's appreciative. She's just all around very positive. There's a very little amount of negatives around her character. She's just an all around.
And she's also an outsider, like Harry is many times, but she's way better at dealing with it.
Yeah, she's really really pretty too. I like the actress they used for her.
Oh yeah, great casting. And, they have another really great scene where they show... This is after Hermione sees Ron kiss, what's her name? The Klinger girl.
Lavender Brown. Yeah, they've been building this up. Throughout most of the middle section, you see a Lavender, where's Ron or Wan? Or it's very obvious she's very clingy. And it's also very obvious that Ron does not like her as much as she likes him.
He just likes the attention, which I think is handled really well. They just pepper in enough things where they don't have a lot of airlifted scenes in where, like, here's Lavender and Ron. They just kind of pop her into scenes here and there, kind of waving at
organic. It feels organic. It feels like it feels like high school. They're dating. You would see them together normally,
But even just kind of like anytime the trio is talking, then she's kind of off in the corner and sneaks in a little wave. So she gives the big kiss. Harry goes and finds Hermione, and there's this great shot where Hermione's pissed and like Ron stumbles in with the girl. Hermione's mad. Harry tells her, "Oh yeah, it feels like this. That's what it feels like when I see Ginny kissing that guy."
Yeah.
The camera zooms out, and then they show it flies around. They show a window with Ron and the Klinger making out or snogging, and then the camera flies over again, and we see Malfoy just kind of standing there, being aloof. And they like pack in so much information.
It's really good.
Quick transitions.
It's a really smart shot because it shows, once again, using your favorite word, which is also one of my favorite words. It juxtaposes the bond, and the thing is that Ron and Harry and Hermione are all worried about who Ron is snogging right now, while Malfoy in the background is constantly dealing with this pressure and this inevitable task that he doesn't think he can complete, and he feels so dejected and so different from Malfoy, and they hide it in the background, but they make a point of like, look at Malfoy and look at what he's not doing. He's not making fun of Ron right now. He's sitting there like in his own world, and it's really, really good use of the camera there too.
Oh, it's beautiful. Then we have one of my favorite Radcliffe jokes when they're in the library and they're trying to learn something. And,
it's so good.
And this other girl keeps looking at Harry, and Hermione says, yeah, the girl over there is looking at you. And Harry's really intrigued, like Ron, where he might not have been interested in that girl, but he's just intrigued that someone is intrigued in him. And Hermione tells him, what's her name?
Romilda Vane.
Romilda.
Yeah, I only remember it because they say it, and it's like, that's such a weird, it's kind of like
Sounds
Luna.
like Broomhilda.
Yeah, Romilda Vane. And she's actually the one who, they kind of set it up for him to get the love potion and stuff like that.
She keeps trying to slip it to him, and Hermione tells him that she's only interested in you because you're the chosen one, and Radcliffe says, but I am the chosen one.
And then Hermione smacks him on the head with like a scroll or something.
And that's when he was starting to win me over with his comedic side.
That's what I'm saying. I think that he grew organically, and I think that the earlier movies in the series kind of made him to be this boy who lived. I think Radcliffe was actually kind of dealing with the fact like, oh, okay, it's a more adult version of the character. He allowed the character to grow and to be more human. I think that he was just stuck. When you're playing one character and that's your entire career, I think it might be dangerous to take some liberties and try some things. So I like that he opened it up and grounded it. I think the script allowed him to, but like you said, Radcliffe is at his best when he feels like Harry Potter without him trying to act like Harry Potter,
Okay.
Well, no, he feels like Harry Potter just because that's what he like when he's trying to be Harry Potter, he's like, he was their friend. Right. He's really trying to act it. He's trying to be that character. But when he lets it fall back and he just like, is a young boy that's what Harry Potter is. He's a young kid who's just trying to live his life, and he's a human person. He has all these big things, and he's angsty. Mm-hmm. So when when Radcliffe lets that just kind of fall over him naturally, he feels like Harry Potter because he's just a kid. He's not trying to act like the Harry Potter, So yeah, it doesn't make much sense because I don't make much sense when I talk. But
I got you. I think he was just learning how to act, but he's definitely a lot stronger when he acts goofy, and I think that he taps into something that's just a lot more real than trying to force out these like 0 to 100 mile an hour dramatic lines.
Exactly, yeah.
Then we have a really, really great Yates sequence, the second Slughorn party. Mm-hmm. And you have this like really kind of comical, it almost seems like one of those British movies where you have an ensemble cast, and you've got Harry and Hermione are like hiding in the corner underneath these drapes. She doesn't want to have the douche guy after her, so she's eating Dragon Balls. Then you got like the waiter. Well, he gives her the Dragon Balls. He kind of comes in, and it's a little silly to see him. She slips out. The douche guy comes in. Snape comes in. He gets puked on. The music is going. They just like absolutely nail this. I think it's one of the best like genuinely funny and those character building moments, and they just really got into a good groove, and this was such a great example of that. It's
very playful, and it's good. It shows, it continues the theming. Once again, that's the scene where it shows Luna and Harry go, and it's an all around nice scene. It's a nice break from the very grimness. It's kind of a bright scene because they're celebrating Christmas. Everyone's in formal attire. It's a nice little break, like you said, and then the whole entire thing kind of wraps around that joke with Snape, and they're under the drapes and everything, and it's a good break. It's a kind of calm before the storm, because everything after that really kicks off, and it's a good way to kind of even that off.
Right, yeah, because then we have their actual Christmas break. They go back to the Weasley place. Mm-hmm. Well, they try to force Ginny and Potter together. She sits down by him. Yeah. She just stares at him in this real serious way, and like has this candy and goes, "Open up, you."
And
Harry's the matter? Don't you trust me?
She's like trying to like she's acting like somebody who is obviously feeding you poison but thinks that they're being sneaky about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Like when you're learning how to court and you think you have a cool line, sometimes it can kind of come out a bit. Like there's that great scene in maybe Order of the Phoenix where these girls look at Harry and he's drinking something and he does the wave and like the water comes out of his mouth.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I kind of get it, but the something did not mesh with the lines that they gave her or the direction that they gave her, because everything she said to him was just so creepy.
Well, also, once again, you don't have the backstory or the context of a loving, like, building relationship. So far, all we know is that Ginny isn't afraid of him. Harry apparently feels pangs of remorse when he sees Ginny kissing another man, and then now she's like awkwardly trying to feed him food. So it's like a very weird build up to the relationship. And I think if you would have saw some touching moments before, that it would have been less weird. But just coming in it at like blank zero and just like, oh, that's kind of weird.
I mean, it is high school, and a lot of the basis of people's first relationships in high school are just, I think you're attractive. Awkward. You think I'm attractive. Yeah. And then you get together. But these ones get married.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe there was maybe J.K. Rowling just didn't want to make a real love interest, so she hitched him to Ginny. I don't know. But
yeah, that all makes sense. I think they give it a little bit more juice in the book. But then we have the attack by the Death Eaters. Harry and Ginny very easily escape the protective parents and run after them. I thought this was done really, really well. It was like watching Signs or something.
I like the way it was shot.
Oh yeah, baby. Yates knows how to, or whoever does the cinematography knows how to like really capture those claustrophobic moments, running through the fields. All of a sudden that pond that he landed in earlier in the beginning of the movie wasn't there, but that's okay. Yeah. And they run off. It like creates a lot of suspense, really makes the Death Eaters seem really dangerous, and you realize it was all ruse so they could burn down the Weasley house.
And they burn down the burrow, and everybody looks up, and they're all like, sad face. And that's kind of the end of that. It's a very weird scene that doesn't really do too much. But, I mean, it helps the fact that they're strong, and it builds on the whole idea of, like, oh, evil is coming. But it wasn't in the book, as far as I remember, and it's kind of a weird thing.
It didn't really need to be there. It was kind of like
no.
They just wanted to put a bit of action in, because they hadn't had action for a while.
Yeah. Once again, it's the calm before the storm, and I think they kicked the storm off a little bit too early. When it comes there.
Because
so they finish that up.
Then we see another Voldemort memory.
Yeah.
This one is great. This is when he's a teenager, but it's it's Voldemort kind of after hours talking to Slughorn, and he's got this he's like a very confident, got a lot of swagger, and he's talking to Slughorn, and kind of like it almost makes it sound like they're having a sexual relationship.
It's almost like he's trying to what he's trying to do is he's trying to get information. He's trying to get information out of Slughorn, and he's trying to do it by seducing in a seductive manner. But he's glorifying Slughorn, trying to be like, you're the only teacher who understands me, and I was looking in the library, and there was the restricted section, and I thought that you're the most knowledgeable professor. He's very slithery, but not only, I think the actor who played the teenager, he comes off, his delivery is a little bit very but yeah, it's this hoppiness to it that it very much seems like he's trying to flirt the information out of him. But it's an effective scene. I like it quite a bit.
I like the scene. I just thought it was just more comical how sexual it sounded. But I thought it was great. I thought the actor again was really good for this version of Riddle. Yeah, and they did a good job.
You got the whole thing with the love potion.
Right. So Ron accidentally takes that. And that is just kind of like a setup to get Potter to go see, because there's this really weird transition where Potter confronts Slughorn because Dumbledore says, I need you to get this memory. Yeah. And Potter says, I watched this scene 3 times to try to find out what Harry actually says. And then I looked up the script. Harry actually says to him, I wondered if I wanted to ask you something.
That's not a fucking sentence. No. Last time I checked.
And then Slughorn kicks him out. Scene ends, and then all of a sudden we see another scene where Harry knocks on a door, and it's Slughorn again. So we have the same characters in another scene, and the time is moved forward. It's like so awkward. But the only reason they did that is so that Slughorn said, "No, it's a bad time right now. Come back later." This is when
it's almost like each in the book, this sequence leading up to this was maybe like 4 or 5 chapters, and they kind of condensed it into like a singular chapter.
Yeah.
So you have the love potion, and then he's trying to get the memory out of Slughorn, and then you also have like some of the luck potion plays a part earlier because he thinks he pretends to give it to Ron. So they're kind of taking all of that and they're just kind of doing it really quickly. I like the whole thing. I like the idea of the luck potion. And I like the idea of that whole scene. I thought it was weird how they approached it. Funnily enough, I actually like the way they did it in the Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince video game, which is it's weird. When I imagine it, well, did you want to finish up about the potion scene and all this and the memory? Okay, because that's kind of its own thing. So Harry needs to get this memory from Slughorn. That's the last thing. Dumbledore is like, hey, I'm going to show you all that I know, and then at a certain point, I can't tell you anymore until you get this memory. They've reached that point, so Harry uses the little bottle of luck potion that he got from winning earlier in the movie, and he takes it. And they have this big plan about how they're going to get the memory from Slughorn, and Harry's just kind of lackadaisically like, I'm going to go visit Hagrid. It seems like the right thing to do. And then, as Matt was saying, he kind of acts drunk, and he's making silly little remarks.
Radcliffe on the luck potion. He's so good.
He's like if he took like 3 shots and he's coming up, or he just smoked a joint or something. He's very he doesn't feel like himself. But in the video game version, there's like this nice filter of like a brisk gold, and things kind of shimmer a teeny bit, and things pop a little bit more. And I thought it was a good visual effect to show that the world feels more vibrant. It feels visually, you get engaged in kind of what Radcliffe is seeing, or Harry Potter is seeing. But I like the way that Radcliffe did it. So he takes the luck potion, then he goes to Hagrid's cabin where we have the what, Matt? What are they doing?
Well, there's this awesome scene where Hagrid is Harry pulls Slughorn down. He's like, you got to follow me down here.
Yeah, because Slughorn is stealing really, really expensive seeds from the greenhouse, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. He says, for academic purposes, and you can also sell them. And then we go down and we see Hagrid is giving this like really weird funeral for Aragog.
Which is weird.
And Aragog is not buried.
Yeah, no. And Aragog is also way, way bigger in Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah.
He's like the size of like 5 trees, and in this one he's just kind of like a car-sized spider.
Yeah, so he's upside down, and they're talking about how people were scared of him, and then Radcliffe has this great thing when he's like, not to mention the pincers, and then he goes, and Hagrid gives him this great look like, anyways.
Are you high, Harold?
And then they have this sort of like, they bring in this almost like Irish funeral music.
Yeah, really weird.
I love that. I thought it was like almost like a parody of a funeral in a way.
For me, it just didn't hit. It was kind of like, I was like, whoa, weird choice.
Oh, I loved the comedy of it and how it was just especially because everything happening was so odd but Harry was on a roll and he had the luck potion, so it kind of felt like everything was fair game. Just at that point in the movie, I felt like I could use a bit of a change of tone and like sort of an uppy, jokey, sort of goofy.
Because now you're getting into the serious stuff. Slughorn gets the venom he wants to sell, and then him and Hagrid are having this jovial drinking party, talking about all the great times that he had with the spider and singing. Yeah, they're singing some.
And then Harry
songs.
Claps like a monkey.
Yeah, it's very like a bunch of guys are just getting drunk, and it's like a bar scene, but in Harry Potter. And then that's when he's like, Professor, sorry to kill your buzz, but tell me about that time you told Voldemort those bad things. And then he's like, hold on, pulling the sperm out of my head, and then pops it in. And now Harry has the final piece, thus beginning the climactic end.
Right.
Which
there's one part we skipped over, but they've been showing Malfoy constantly in this.
Yeah.
In the Room of Requirement, and they do a great job of displaying this because the camera's kind of askew, sort of like a weird angle. The color is so drained, it looks black and white. There's no words, and to me, I felt like I was watching like a French movie or a cologne commercial because Malfoy just walks up with his bird, puts a bird in it, closes it, opens the door. There's no bird. It's like so abstract and
yeah.
Like when it was over, I thought that they were going to put Finn across the title in cursive.
But that stuff is interspersed throughout the entire movie. Pretty much after you see maybe a little bit before that kiss scene, and pretty much all the way up until the climax, you see him, testing out this weird thing, putting a apple in there, and then the apple has a bite out of it, and putting the bird in there, and all this stuff. So he's like subtly in the background.
But they don't hit you over the head with what's happening. Which
no.
They keep that a bit of a mystery and just show it to you. I think they had a lot of confidence with that. But this is when Harry confronts Malfoy and chases him into the bathroom, and they have this like really great.
Yeah.
Again, they use like kind of like when he finally finds Malfoy, they go down like a real claustrophobic alleyway, and then he spots him in it. It really reminded me of, if you've ever seen Heat, when Al Pacino and De Niro finally have their duel at the very end of it. I felt like they don't. I like how they don't say any words for the spells. They're just kind of shooting at each other. They're dodging. There's no music at all. They're looking for each other's feet. That. It's a fantastic duel.
They drop the music and you hear it's there's some music leading up, but as soon as the spells start flying, once again, it's a lot like how the final fight in Order of the Phoenix is. It's just you don't hear anything, but you feel like you're there because he throws off a spell without saying anything. You hear a crash, and then now there's water spraying everywhere. You feel like you're in the bathroom because there's no score. It feels very intense. It feels very personal. And when he lets off that Sectum Sempra, which is it's a spell he learned from the book, and in his little Half-Blood Prince Potion book, it says Sectum Sempra for enemies. He has no clue what the spell does. He can't find it anywhere, and he decides to use it. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And then
it's nice because we've seen enough of the spells they're using back and forth that it feels like Harry's pulling out kind of a last resort. Like, I'm going to use this to grab him. And then he's horrified at what it does to Malfoy. Malfoy's a little cut up and kind of overacting a bit. And he's like kind of crying. But I guess that makes sense for how devastating he is. Snape comes in and hovers over him, chanting in Latin like only Alan Rickman can. The camera kind of goes up high and does this almost like a mini helicopter shot with the water flowing, and it's in black and white. It felt like a scene right out of The Godfather.
It's like he's laying there because he throws Sectum Sempra at him, and he gets like a bunch of these cuts underneath his white shirt, and they're like big gashes, and the blood leaks out, and then here comes Snape, and he's doing the incantation, and like you said, the helicopter shot, and the blood is sucking back into Malfoy. I thought that is it's devoid of color, and I wish they would have maybe made the color just a little bit sharper,
or made the blood red and had everything else black and white.
That's what I meant, or maybe made some of the primary colors a little bit sharper in that scene. But I think it's great because for the first time, you see a spell that really causes some gruesome stuff. You see nothing but disarming spells, force pushes, and stuff like that.
Or even somebody who dies, they just sort of disappear or fall down.
Yeah,
you don't actually see the effect.
It just makes them go boink, and then they're dead. And I think Sectum Sempra is one of the coolest spells because it's something that shows there's way, way worse ways to hurt people using magic, but it's like a medieval way of hurting somebody. It's like using a bladed sword without using a bladed sword. I think it's such a cool spell, and it's such a cool visual effect. So that really sets off the darkness.
Except we have to deal with the kissing scene.
Oh, yeah, Ginny and...
So after Harry uses the spell, the friends say, you got to get rid of that book. It's too dangerous. I like that they don't hit you over the head with that too. They just assume that that Harry used the spell out of the book. They assume that the audience remembers that they just showed that spell.
Yeah.
And Ginny takes him up there, and again, so creepy. She just says to him, like, close your eyes.
She's like, come to me in this weird room. Don't close your eyes. Don't look.
I don't want you to be tempted. And then she hides the thing, and then she kisses him with his eyes closed, and then kind of like backs away again like a ghost.
It's so weird because she's like, they're in the room of requirement. There's all this space, and she's like, I'm going to go throw the book, but close your eyes because I don't want you to know where it's at. So she's like, close your eyes. And she kind of, you get the side profile shot of Harry, and then she kind of leans off screen, comes back super close, kisses him, and then he's like, huh? And she's just gone.
Yeah.
She's just gone. She's like, I kissed you and then I left because I'm afraid of what's going to happen after. It's so awkward and weird.
There's this other really weird line she says too where she goes, that can stay hidden up here too if you like. But she mumbles the whole thing. I had to keep going back and trying to decipher. What the hell did you say? Luckily, I have my script up that I need to get through this movie.
What happens in Nocturne Alley stays in Nocturne Alley, Harry. Let's go. Like, yeah, no, it's weird.
I think they are going to have a very kinky relationship because she's always whispering weird commands to him, and he's like, "Okay, sure."
They have like 17 kids or something weird, don't they? I don't know.
Kids, don't open your parents' door. You're going to see something you'll never ever forget.
Speaking of things you'll never ever forget, the end of this movie. They're going to the Well, they find out about the Horcruxes. He finds out because he gets the memory from Slughorn, looks in, and he finds out that the thing that Tom Riddle was trying to figure out, right? Is there anything else?
No, actually, that Ginny scene happened a little bit before the Irish funeral, so we got that part mixed up, but that's okay.
Okay, so they do that, and then now Harry has the Slughorn memory. He goes and he takes it. He takes it to Dumbledore's office, and he's like, "What was going on?" They go down, and then he sees the memory as it is whole and correct, and he finds out that Slughorn tells him about these things called Horcruxes, in which a person can split their soul by murdering somebody, doing the most foul act of all, and then to which Tom says, well, wouldn't somebody be able to split their soul 7 times? Because 7 is the most powerful magical number. And, he goes, oh, this 7, that's horrible. Who could imagine murdering someone just once? And he's like, Tom, why are you doing this? It's like, oh, purely for academia, something like that. And so you immediately know, okay, there's 7 items that have Voldemort's, soul in it. And that's when you start to see all these things tied together with the necklace and all of that. And that's when they really kick off the ending of the movie, which is interesting, and it's very dark.
Very dark. I felt like this, the ending segment of this movie felt to me like Chamber of Secrets or the Philosopher's Stone, where everything has been leading up to this moment where they know where they have to go, and a couple of the main characters head off and go do it. They go do the thing that is far away. And this time it's Dumbledore and Harry, and they head off to this cave. They kind of skip a lot of the stuff in the book. In the book, they have to swim to this island. In this one, they just kind of apparate before it, and then I imagine they apparate again into it.
No, in the they do a good job following a lot of the stuff. There's maybe I watched a different version than you were, a director's cut or something. He cuts his hand and smears it on the wall like he's supposed to, and then he pulls up the boat with the chain.
Yeah. Because Dumbledore says Harry's more valuable or whatever. So
no, that's in the book. It's different because when they're on the way, they see like the bodies floating, and it's very, very more morbid and stuff like that. They did a pretty decent job. What I like about this specifically is when you look at something like Philosopher's Stone or Chamber of Secrets, the kids know at least what to expect going in. Yeah. This, even though I think the ending sequence with the cave and the Horcrux isn't as cool as it could have been, it is pretty damn cool. It gains points because not only does Harry really not know 100% what to expect, but even Dumbledore says, dude, this is going to be really dangerous. So it's like the first time you're like, oh, it's some real shit. So they go to this mystical cave, like Matt said, there's this island in the middle of this big lake that they're trying to get to. They get up there and they see an amulet.
Because if Dumbledore says something is scary, that's like being on an airplane and, if there's turbulence, you look at the flight attendant, and if they're nervous,
then you know it's something. Big deal. So they see this amulet, and it's in this this bowl, right? And he's like, oh, You can't pick up the amulet. It's in this water substance. You're not going to be able. I think I have to drink whatever the potion is. So he tells Harry, you got to make me drink this potion. No matter what I say, you got to do it. And then for some weird reason, in the book, it's a chalice he uses. Dumbledore conjures a chalice and he uses the chalice. And in the movie, it's like a weird.
It's like a shell.
I don't know why they did that, but it's like a shell. And so he's like, no matter what happens, Harry, you got to keep feeding it to me. So he keeps forcing the potion, which pulls Dumbledore into this agony. I thought he did a really, really good job there. I feel like he was just missing a really good scream, Dumbledore, because in the book it's very violent. And they don't really they don't hold back. Dumbledore is saying, please just kill me now. And Harry's like, oh, this will help you, Professor. Just drink some more out of this little shell thing. And that part is cool.
It's cool, but there is one. I thought the majority of the Dumbledore drinking was pretty good. But there's this one scene where Dumbledore looks up and he looks like a little baby because he's like,
Yeah, he's like,
No.
I don't want it. I don't. And in the book, at that point, he's mentally damaged. He is like a shell of himself, but it doesn't come across in the movie at all.
Yeah.
In the movie, it just seems like he goes, poopy, no.
Exactly,
And like,
yeah. I guess they rushed that, or like you said, they're just missing that sort of connecting part where you understand what he's going through.
Yeah. There's a lot of weight to it that kind of feels missing in the movie. And then you see the Inferi, which are one of the most morbid parts of the Harry Potter universe, dead bodies that have been enchanted to fight for dark wizards, and that's what comes up out of the.
There's even a big jump scare, which is that's not something we normally ever get in a Harry Potter movie, and they don't really do it cheaply either. Dumbledore just keeps saying, "I want some water." Water, give me water. And Harry goes down over to this water, and it's been so quiet for so long that when that hand comes out, I thought that was really effective, and they didn't do it like in a cheap horror way. It just naturally came about.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And so the Inferi start crawling up on the island. It's a very small island, maybe you could fit 5 people standing on that thing comfortably. Yeah. You just see hordes of these dead bodies, zombified, reaching for him. And then here comes Dumbledore proving his badassery once again.
But hang on, right before that happens, doesn't Harry get dragged down into the water again?
He does, you're right.
So, you think they're going to fend them off, but the Inferi actually, overwhelming them. Harry's dragged into the water, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen now? And then
that's when you see it over. That's a really cool shot. Yeah, Harry gets dragged underneath the water, and you see him struggling. You see these bodies pulling him, and then you see an eruption of oranges and reds over the top of the water. And then when he comes up, Dumbledore is just slinging his a lasso of fire, just demolishing all these things. And it's so cool. It's really, really, really cool because even Dumbledore, 5 minutes ago was crying like a baby. Now he's just lassoing like a giant inferno. It's just a really, really cool moment because once again, it does something I really like, and it shows that there's deep kind of dark magics and there's these hidden places that are enchanted, and it feels very, very magical, even in a Harry Potter sense. So that it's the ending, and then of course
that was probably the best visualization of a spell we've seen in the whole series up to that point. That was really, really impressive.
Yeah, those and then the ending of Order of the Phoenix are 2 of the best parts. And then they got what they came for. They apparate back to Hogwarts with Dumbledore saying, "Oh, I put in the loophole. Don't worry," because technically you're not supposed to apparate into Hogwarts. So they teleport back to Hogwarts. They're on this big observatory, and he says, we have this amulet. I need you to go get Professor Snape. I need you to tell him that I have this. Talk to no one. Come right to me. And then they hear a rustling of people coming, and he goes, all right, now go hide. And
now in the book, I think he stuns Harry and covers him with an invisibility cloak. Because where in this one they make it more of Harry's. I thought this part was confusing because he says, go get Snape. And then immediately after he's like, go below. So then he sort of hides below, and then the Death Eaters show up. Bellatrix is there.
No. What happens in the book is he doesn't go below. I think it's just one big tower. He gives him the invisibility cloak, but he tries to do something, but Dumbledore forces him, using a mind power, not even his wand. He forces him to stay put there. In the book, he doesn't have, or in the movie, he doesn't have his invisibility cloak. He's just kind of hiding in these little rafters. And
I think that played better.
It works because in the book, he's like, oh, and don't forget, before we go to this cave, don't forget to grab your invisibility cloak. But he doesn't end up really using it, so it just made more sense to do it this way in the movie. But that's when you get Malfoy, who comes up. And the whole big climactic scene. And
I like that he tries to convert Malfoy back, and you can see that he felt like he failed with Riddle and Voldemort, and he thought that he could. I mean, he literally references that, but I like that little exchange before and trying to bring Malfoy back to the light because we've been seeing this sort of Malfoy isn't just 100% into being evil.
Yeah,
he seems.
Well, and that's the best part about his character, and it really shows in this final scene. And you have Tom Felton really brings it.
Oh yeah.
He's holding the wand, and he's like, without them saying anything, what he's trying to do. You know what he has to do. And he says, he goes, Draco, you don't have to do this. And he goes, you don't understand. I have to do this. If I don't, he'll kill me. And you can see he's seriously afraid. And you can feel sympathy for Draco Malfoy, which is incredible considering he's barely talked. And the last time you saw him, he was an asshole who was siding with Professor Umbridge.
A very flat asshole for the whole franchise, and then all of a sudden they give him this monumental task, and I think the writing and and his
Felton
acting
pulls it off so well.
does a great job, but he ends up not being able to pull the trigger. Bellatrix shows up. Snape sees Harry, tells him be quiet, and that's another like great thing where you're like, what, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Snape takes over and does the death blow, which it's been a long time since I've read the books, and I thought, oh, maybe he's gonna pretend to kill him or something.
Yeah,
but he ends up giving the death blow.
He Avada Kedavras him real good. And the thing is, there's really not even an exchange, you know. He just says Severus, and he's just like, nope, and he shoots him, and then you get this really epic shot. You know, they're trying to invoke greatness falling, and you see him just kind of Albus Dumbledore slowly fall off into this big old free fall, and then it just kind of cuts away. It's a little bit of an underwhelming death for such a big character, but it makes sense because it shows how quickly it can just be like that. You know, Dumbledore is the greatest wizard, and just so quickly, without even a triumphant horn or a big orchestral hit, you know, Snape single-handedly ends his life super quickly. It was super effective and a really, really, really good moment. Surprised the hell out of the people who had not read the book in the theater. I remember that very, very well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're so used to never seeing main characters die, and he was such a huge part of this movie too. Like they really focus on him. I kind of wish there was a bit more of like a defense from Dumbledore's side, but I think in the book as well, is it that quick? Just Snape really
in the
quickly...
book, it is that quick, and I mean we could get into spoilers for 7, but that's how it is.
No, let's stick with this so far.
Yeah, so that's in the book it is just that. Draco can't do it. There, it changes a little bit. I don't think that the Death Eaters show up in like hordes and like do it, Severus.
Yeah, I
but
don't
it's
think
very
Bellatrix
much like
is there in the book at all.
He just goes whoosh, and he just kind of does it. You know, there's not a whole rigmarole to it, so it's very, very respective of the source material in the adaptation of the film version.
I think the movie kind of drops off after this point.
That's what I was just gonna say. Then it just goes conk conk.
Yeah, they don't show the funeral that was in the book.
And that's a big part.
Like I really wish they would have done that. They just kind of have everybody standing and looking at the dark mark, and then everyone holds their wands up, which I think looks a bit cheesy.
And they all like light up, and it's just like, what are you at a concert, dude?
Yeah, I know, it's for the ungrateful that he's dead, and then and they kind of, I guess they cast Lumos or something. We don't really know what they do, and then there's kind of this cheesy scene of the kids hanging out in that tower.
It's all gonna change now, isn't it?
And they like really quickly move on from the death, and then all of a sudden Hermione's just like, "Don't be making out with Ginny in front of Ron." Like,
yeah, they
Dumbledore is
gloss
dead.
over it. It would have been way better if they would have just ended it like that, just the Dumbledore dies and then just hard cut to black. I think would have been really ballsy, but it would have been better because the last 5 to 10 minutes of this movie are just kind of just like.
Well, I think they should have done the funeral, because then you can at least ease people out of it and end on something more positive.
Yeah, if they weren't going to do the funeral, it would have been better just to cut it. I think the reason they didn't do the funeral is because there's so many different characters and there's so many different actors they'd have to pull back, and then there's, you know, like giants and crazy amounts of people.
Yeah.
They'd have to bring back actors from Goblet of Fire and stuff. So it's an expensive scene to shoot, I think, for all the actors involved.
That's probably a good point. I mean, and Harry tells him that he's not going back to school. He's going to go finish Dumbledore's work, and Hermione says he's a fucking idiot if he thinks that they're not going to join him. Yep. And it's kind of where it changes now, because Deathly Hallows is kids out of school running around. But we'll talk about that on the next video of the series. So overall, I gave this a 3 out of 5 because I think that there are some really strong moments. I think that they got into a great groove. I love the direction. For the most part, I love the soundtrack. There's just enough chinks in the armor and a few parts that kind of drag in the middle and that are cringeworthy mixed in. Like almost all these Harry Potter movies, there's some like really high highs, and then there's a real mixed bag of everything else. And I would recommend obviously a Harry Potter fan's going to watch it, but I recommend like a fantasy fan or a sci-fi fan.
Now, when we started this, you said that you were gonna talk crap on it more than I think you actually did. I think that this movie is probably one of the better in the series. It definitely is one of the better in the series. I give it a little bit higher. I say it's probably like a 3.5 or a 4. Well, I'll say 3.5. But right now, as far as the ranking, right now it's 5 at the top, right? Order of the Phoenix.
For sure.
And then we go Prisoner of Azkaban, right?
Right.
Or do we put Goblet of Fire above that?
No. Goblet of Fire is cool.
It's 5-3, 5-3.
6?
Yeah, I'll be okay with that. I actually think that I think that 6 is better than Prisoner of Azkaban. Do you? I think Prisoner of Azkaban, I think, is a consistent movie.
Yeah.
Half-Blood Prince, it has more, whereas
Azkaban has such a great first act, a horrible second act, and then an average third act.
Whereas Half-Blood Prince has really highs, and it's inconsistent, but it's consistently inconsistent. It's not like you don't have to wait around for 40 minutes for it to get good. Maybe wait 10 minutes.
I'll definitely put Goblet on the bottom. Then I put Chamber of Secrets second to last, and then the first movie maybe third to last.
So I think for me right now, and I think you can agree, it would go Order of the Phoenix at the top, and then Half-Blood Prince, Prisoner of Azkaban, Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So that's where our things are at right now. We're almost there. We'll have a full ranking, dude, pretty soon.
Guess how long this was? Or do you have a Skype timer?
No, I don't. Well, I don't have it rolled over, but I'm assuming that this is podcast length, maybe an hour?
Hour and 20.
Well, maybe we should make it a podcast.
It is.
I hope you guys like Harry Potter.
I've been uploading these to my gaming podcast. I wonder if people are really pissed off. What the fuck?
No.
I'm not talking about games.
We should just make a new feed for our movie stuff, and then you guys can follow our feeds on all the iTunes and wherever you can listen to them, Stitchers and stuff.
Okay, Bill Cosby. On the iTunes and the Stitchers.
We'll figure it out. But for now, Harry Potter, and it'll keep coming. Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 1.
It's coming up next, and then we'll have Part 2.
Yeah,
and then who knows? Maybe we'll do Fantastic Beasts or.
Have you seen Fantastic Beasts yet?
No.
Ooh, I did catch it, but I would rewatch it.
I actually didn't know that it was part of the Harry Potter universe.
It's actually funny because the way Fantastic Beasts is it's a school book that they have to buy, I believe, in the 5th year, and the book itself, they released it. It's like a Hogwarts textbook, but they're making like 7 movies out of it. It's all about this guy who collects fantastic beasts and keeps them in his little thing. And it takes place.
I thought it was about young Dumbledore.
No. Young Dumbledore's in it because it's like in that time period. But it's about this guy named Newt Scamander who is essentially a collector of exotic beasts in the magical world. And then he goes to New York and he's with a bunch of muggles and stuff trying to collect these beasts that have escaped. And then the background, you have like the startings of like the predecessors to Voldemort and like the first Dark Wizards. Because this takes place when Dumbledore is like in school and coming out of school and stuff like that. So it's a decent time. Maybe we'll do that after. We'll see how burned out we are. We still have 2 more movies to go.
Yeah.
6 down, 2 to go.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and bye for now.